This is a house that I swore to my husband I would never live in if he bought it. And yet here we are. Hi, I'm Cecile, and this is From Canada to Adana. And today I thought I would do a little story time. The story of how we came to live in this house in the southern Turkish city of Adana. So I'll take you for a little walk with me around the property and tell you about the story. This house, we've been in it just under 2 years now, and we've been working on it the whole time. We started before we moved in, but as you can see, there's still stuff to be filled in. There's a hole up there, but yeah, this is our big patio. And there's always something going on. So we've been living with construction work. There's kind of an impromptu scaffolding that my husband used to get all these pieces of wood as well as the steel beams in place. So this is a house that I swore I would never live in, and yet here we are. So he bought this house about 3 years ago. I should add, before I sound like a total spoiled brat prima donna, so people in Turkey generally don't save money or save for their retirement or invest money the same way we typically do in North America. What Turkish people usually do, sorry, it's really bright. What they usually do is either they buy and save gold, which people like to joke, it's like under their mattress, all their life savings, or they buy land. Especially here in Adana, in the south, and in the more rural areas of Turkey, they'll buy just like farmland or just like a field or something. And then when a child gets married or, like times like pandemic, like difficult times now, people will sell that land. So actually over the past few years, people have been selling because they need money. So the owner of this house really wanted to sell and hadn't been able to. And so a mutual friend mentioned it to my husband. My husband said, this is like way too good an offer to pass up. And so he bought it. And our agreement was that he would buy it as an investment property and not as a family home. So there's the neighbor's house, by the way. That's kind of what our house used to look like before we renovated it. There it is now. So the biggest reason I didn't want this house or anything to do with it was, even though it was 5 years old, no one had ever lived in it. The previous owner had bought it, I don't know, maybe as an investment property or was thinking it would be a second home, but had never moved in. This compound had been it was a dream, we'll say. It was a really idealistic dream on the part of 14 friends. They were mostly all teachers, and they bought this piece of land and had it developed and built these 14 houses, very much like a cooperative. And unfortunately, they didn't, let's just say they got bamboozled several times over in the process because they were very idealistic and they weren't professional builders. And I'm not an engineer, I'm not a builder, I'm not an architect, but just having grown up, I guess, in North America and having an interest in architecture, I knew that there were structural issues. The compound also was half unoccupied. And as I said, even though it was 5 years old, very little had been done, so it wasn't really like didn't have that settled in feel yet. And I just, like, this sounds maybe a bit woo-woo, but like the feng shui was all off. I just did not feel good energy at all. There are a lot of retaining walls in this compound, and I could see large cracks. And in fact, the first winter after we did buy, before we moved in, some retaining walls did in fact collapse. And I just thought it's a money pit. The from the facade, like from the outside on the facade, the windows are kind of mismatched sizes and just like, well, there you see behind me. So there's like a large window, a tiny window, another large window, and there's another tiny window up there. And just little things like that just really bothered me. Now, one thing we've done is we've knocked out these little bathroom windows and elongated them, like we've taken them down so that all the windows, even though they're not the same width, they're all the same height. And so little changes like that, once we got into it and started making those changes, of course, I started to like the house. But reasons I didn't want the house, I just thought this is so much work. So without even having met any of the neighbors, I just felt that they were probably exhausted. They had lost that initial hope and that idealism and had just kind of given up. They had stopped before they were done, and they didn't have the energy to, go the last quarter of a mile, but in this case it was like more than a quarter of a mile. They didn't have the energy to go the last 25% and really finish things up. And just that kind of stagnant energy, that's sort of what I sensed, and so I didn't want any part of that. And I think part of it was that I didn't trust myself to do what I needed to do. I wanted to sort of ride on the energy of other people and my neighbors, and I wanted to move into a place that was already really established and all set. We were renting at the time. We had just moved back to Adana from Istanbul, and we didn't know if it was going to be a permanent move. I didn't know if I wanted to stay in Turkey at all. Definitely didn't know if I wanted to stay in Adana, the city where I had moved to when I first moved to Turkey in 2006. And so we rented a house for a year. And my husband bought this house. And over the course of the year that we were renting, the equivalent of condo fees, I don't know them in English by any other name, but like the fees that you would pay monthly to the compound. So fees for the gardener, the security guard, the water for the grounds, the fuel for the generator, the pool maintenance, that kind of thing. The fees for the compound almost doubled, and that was just because Turkey was in one of the economic downturns that have become such a regular thing. Suddenly it was like we were paying rent twice, because the rent itself on the house was reasonable, but then with these increased compound fees, it was like we were paying rent twice. By the way, all these trees we planted ourselves. This is a persimmon tree, and there is some fruit here, almost ripe, that I'm really excited about. So we decided that it was time to stop renting, buy a house. And as we looked, it seemed to make more and more sense to move into this house that was just a few blocks away from where we were living anyway. So one of the things we did to renovate the house was to add a third story, because we have 3 kids and the house only had 3 bedrooms. So we added a third story. There was already kind of a flat roof anyway. Let me see if you can see by the neighbors here. So this will be a garden shed. So there you see kind of what the houses in this particular compound look like. So 2 stories with a flat roof and already like about a meter tall wall around it. So we just extended that wall up to be a full height wall, added a ceiling, added a roof. Then we did some other things, like you can see our house color is very different. This here was a main floor balcony, which really didn't make sense to me. The whole point, I thought, of having a house with a garden as opposed to an apartment, which so many Turkish people choose to live in, was that your house, your indoors and outdoors were kind of one. And I was feeling with this house, the minute you walked in the front door, which was the only door in and out of the house, that I might as well be on the 8th floor of an apartment building. So one of the things we did was knock out, and again, excuse the mess, this is all temporarily being stored here because we have another storage cellar project underway, and those things will go in there. But so we knocked down these kind of half walls here, and sorry, how to get there, those walls, and just made this. This is the kitchen balcony. Made it walking out right into the garden. So behind me you see a little gravel area that I really wanted. It's not quite done because there's an extra pile there, but this is extra outdoor seating. So again, everything very much still in progress. But yeah, so we have been living in this house and slowly renovating it, like I said, for close to 2 years. We added on a floor. We knocked out 4 windows on the main floor and turned them into sliding doors. So now from almost everywhere in the house, you can go out into the garden or back into the house. And because we have a cat, we have a dog, we have 3 kids, this kind of constant in and out lifestyle suits us. It certainly makes the house dustier and messier, but that's okay. I think in some ways the dirtier and messier a house, the more lived in it is. So one other thing I can show you that brings me immense joy is this avocado tree behind me, which my mother-in-law planted from an avocado stone, a pit. We then transplanted it here and accidentally killed it twice, but it has come back, and dare I say it's about 4 feet tall now. So no fruit yet. I understand we need a second tree in order to get fruit, but we'll see what happens next year. Along this fence, I've planted 3 very fragrant jasmine bushes, which I'm really excited about. And my hope, you see how much this has grown already, my hope is that this whole fence will just become like a curtain of green. And the other really exciting thing for me is this bougainvillea, which grows very well in this region. This was a housewarming gift from my sister-in-law, and this plant unfortunately also was killed. This time not so much our fault, but because we're outside the city here, the weather is about 5 degrees less than the rest of the city, and that first winter here, it just didn't make it. It literally just got new flowers yesterday. These just opened. This plant didn't have a leaf to it. Everything you see here is new, grown this summer. So this winter we are going to protect it by wrapping it with burlap. All this to say that planting trees, I count and then I forget, but I'm going to say we have about 20 trees here. We've planted them all ourselves. We've laid, every stone, everything. If not ourselves, at least we were, there when it was being done. And it's become like, our own child in a way. Like it's been a labor of love, and it's so ironic that the house I never wanted, I now love. This is our lower garden. We've got more fruit trees here. Did I just say garden? We've got pomegranate trees down there, a little failed attempt at corn. We had okra, we've got a fig tree, another olive tree, a pecan tree. I think this is not peach. What's the other one that's not the non-fuzzy peach? What's it, nectarine? Is that what it is? Yeah. So yeah, that's the story of how we came to move into our own house outside the city, and how you should really not speak too soon, because the house I swore I would never live in, I now absolutely love. All right. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified when the next video comes out. Bye.